Hi guys, I wanted to welcome you back from spring break. Well, almost, if you're looking at this on Sunday night, but the remainder of Module 5 continues on Monday. And so for week 2, you should be on, well, anywhere between chapters 18 and 21 on Wiseboard, and then you have the 3 supplemental articles that you also need to read. But particularly for week 2, if you're following strictly along in the weeks of the modules, this time we will focus on teamwork and designing work for learning and self-control. So specifically about how to design work to be a better learning organization. And one thing that I wanted to make an impression upon you is the importance of the UCL article. So I know that when you have multiple chapters to read and you have supplemental articles to read, for people who are reading them in order, maybe the last thing on the list doesn't always get the most attention, and I understand the practicalities of that. But I wanted to let you know that the UCL article is particularly important because it is so practical. It gives you a specific list of the ways that leaders influence collective learning. And so you might take that list in the UCL article and you might take some of those things that are on the list and you might analyze those in your own organization through your applied final project. So it's just another prism or another lens for you to look through that can help you evaluate your organization if it's something that you think might be important for you. So take a look at that with the express goal of not just reading it, but also thinking, how can I take some of the practical tips that are in this article and use them in my applied final project? He also talks about the relevance of popular leadership theories. So for those of you for whom this is your first class in the graduate program, and if you haven't had any previous experience in leadership, you may not necessarily be familiar with what transformational leadership or charismatic leadership or transactional leadership or dyadic theories are. You will later. Those are a lot of things that we cover in 801. So for those of you who are taking 801 in the fall, it's a little bit of a preview of some of the things that we'll be covering. For those of you who have already had 801, you better have already known about what those things are, particularly dyadic theories. Remember LMX? Anyway, also important is at the end of that article, he gives a list of alternative research methods. And in this particular article, UCL is focusing on alternative research methods for studying leadership in learning organizations. But I want you to, again, look at those alternative research methods that he discusses in that section of the article through the lens of how you might also be able to collect information for your applied final project, not just through the lens of leadership. So he talks about quasi-experimental things and all kinds of different alternative research methods than things that we normally think about in terms of collecting data or analyzing learning organizations. So so please make sure that you take a look at that and again try to use some of the practicalities that are in the UCL article to help you when you're analyzing your organizations. I should have started this out by telling you how incredibly impressed I am with this class. The discussion board, we have these really broad, and again in Module 5, it's no different. There's a very broad question for the discussion board. And I have to be honest, I was a little bit nervous when I first started this class about what kind of responses and what kind of interaction would result by having such, open-ended and broad discussion questions. They're short, relatively short, but they're highly packed with a lot of information, and there's a lot of different ways that you can get at answering those broad questions. And I've been blown away, actually, by many of the depth and the breadth of your responses and your interaction with each other on discussion board throughout this course. And so I'm really proud of all of you, and I expect that to continue. I also was extremely impressed with your concept maps and in how you are really grappling with the mechanics of how do you get your arms around, how to get your hands around these big systems with all of these, different parts that are going on, and how you really have been able to do that and not only do it through your concept maps, but really articulate why you have viewed it this way and why you have drawn your system maps the way that you have. And I hope it's been really beneficial. It's been really beneficial for me because I saw your proposal and then I saw your concept map and how you grappled with those things. And so now I understand your organizations better. And so I think that I will be able to take a look at your applied final project through a better lens of understanding. I have really appreciated the conversations that I've had with several of you. And if we haven't had a conversation yet, please know that I am more than happy to talk with you. I've talked with some of you multiple times. I've talked to some of you only a couple times, and I've talked to some of you 0 times. And that's fine. You know, I want you to learn in whatever way is most beneficial to you. But I want you to know that oftentimes it is easier to have a chat about something, to talk through something, instead of just doing everything by email and assignments and discussion board. So for those of you who are thinking, man, this is kind of hard. You know, I thought I understood my organization, but now as I try to articulate it to somebody else, I'm not sure that I got it all. Particularly with boundaries of, you know, where you stop. I mean, systems are so huge, but maybe you're doing here, maybe you're doing here, maybe you're doing here. That can be intimidating. So for those of you who feel like you're struggling and feel like this is hard and you're not quite sure if you're doing it right, that is exactly what you're supposed to feel like when you start grappling with all of these things from a systems perspective. In many ways, you've never really been asked to do this before. Maybe pieces of it, but not necessarily putting the whole big picture together. So for those of you who are feeling nervous or feeling like, you know, this is a struggle and you're just not quite sure if you're there yet, I would be more concerned with people who think that they have it all figured out. Because my guess is that none of you have it all figured out. And so that's okay. So I want you to kind of be okay with some of that uncertainty and realize that I know that that's the process that you're going through and that that's okay. So anyway, welcome back from spring break. I know it's a little bit weird to have spring break in the middle, right in the middle of a module. I don't know how all of you have handled that. For those of you who did take a break and even got a break from work, I hope you had some good rest. I actually did. I've been having some health issues, and conveniently, many of the really bad parts of those health issues that I have been struggling with happened over spring break, and I am feeling much better today. So that's good. I feel like maybe I'm past that as well. So I am widely available to you over the next week as we finish Module 5, if there's anything that you'd like to talk about. Your applied final project is the progress report. So it's phase 2 of the AFP is due on Sunday. I do not expect you to have to spend a lot of time on this. This should be a relatively simple thing that says, look, this is what I've done so far, and this is what I still need to do. I just want to make sure you're on track, and I want to make sure that you are sort of forced through this assignment to assess where you are and where you still need to go so that you can make sure you have the best final product that is available. That's the only goal of this assignment. So it shouldn't take you too long to be able to articulate, okay, here are the things I've done, here are the things I still need to do. And if there's any questions you have, if you want to meet with me about your applied final project, if there's anything you're feeling uncertain about, please include that in your progress report, okay? If you need anything, let me know. You know how to reach me. Have a great week.